I wrote this novel about like 4 years ago, and a lot of it is based on my own experience, but I kind of turned it into a romance. I sent it out to beta readers and I changed things, and then I queried it and I got like two full requests, but at the end of the day, didn't get like any bites. And so then I was like, okay, you know what? Clearly there's something wrong with it. So I will throw it into my beta reading group and then I'll see what comments they have. So they've been giving me feedback. So all their comments, they're like, it's a nice storyline, but like this is so annoying and this is so annoying. And I had like 10, 12 beta readers read it before, and none of them gave me the comments that these people gave me.
I feel the same way about the novel. Went through a bunch of readers, they all liked it, but I'd get requests and then I'd get rejections on the pages requests. And so I sent it to these people. I'm like, it's 118,000 words. Maybe it just has something in it that's not supposed to be there. And instead, they said, no, there's not enough in here. And they want me to expand it by like 10,000 words. And I know it's epic fantasy, but I'm already like up there for a debut. Why did nobody tell me this like 7 years ago?
I think it was a great experience for me because now I'm not afraid to query anymore. And I
Right.
learned a lot about how to query. So I think my overall lesson that I learned from this is like it is really, really important to get the right people to critique or beta read your novel and for you to trust their feedback and their comments.
Yes, I agree. So I just accidentally tried my new tea. Oh, it's so good. It's good. I licked the spoon and I was like, wait, I wasn't going to do that.
Whoops.
I'm drinking a raspberry tea this morning.
I went back to my roots and today I have some rooibos tea. But generally I would drink it with milk, but today I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put some honey in it because my throat is a bit itchy. So I was like, no, no, no. So are we ready for this episode?
I am so ready. This one's fun.
Welcome to Tea and Tales. We are so happy to have you here with us. I'm Madeleine Einal.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. We especially want to thank Jennifer Brown and Susan Marcus. Today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. We're bringing back one of our favorite guests. I hope you guys like her as much as we do. But we're bringing back Rose Lawrence. She's going to come on and talk to us about writing prompts and writing challenges. Please welcome Rose Lawrence. Welcome back to Tea and Tales, Rose.
Thank you for having me back.
Today is really about you and your new writing prompts. Tell us a little bit about this new website that you have.
Yes, I've got a new little writing club called Rose's Little Writing Club. So the idea is that we meet up the first Wednesday of every month. And it's just for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and we just do a different focus. The aim is to practice all those little things that we kind of know we should practice, but it's so hard to find the time because we're always trying to steal little bits of time just to write our work in progress. We'll bumble on through, and then we get to the editing part and think, oh, there's all these things that I missed because I hadn't been thinking about them at the time. So it's just to practice things like getting to know your character, getting to know the genre and how to infuse that into the writing, getting to know how to write emotions, so just practicing writing emotions. If you've ever been to a life drawing class as an artist, it's based on the same kind of structure that you do there. So you do a few little exercises to loosen up, get on the page, and it can be a little bit mind-bendy. You really want to make every word perfect when you put it down, but there's just no time for it. So the aim is to bypass that writer's block and get you on the page. So we'll do a few quick studies and then we do a longer one with prompts that I've prepared in advance. And then there'll be 10 minutes at the end where we chat about it and we see whether that brought up anything, if you had any breakthroughs, things like that. Or you've got 10 minutes spare time that you have earned back to carry on writing. So you might have got past the writer's block phase and you're in the zone and you're ready to carry on with your work in progress. So that's really the aim.
What I like about this idea is that I almost feel it's similar to a writing group in the sense that you are being held accountable without feeling pressured about it. And so I think, as you've said, like, we already struggle as writers to get time in our day to be able to just sit down and write our current novel that we are working on. Honestly, sometimes you just get like a writer's block and you're like, I don't know what to do. So exercises like this is almost like the perfect practice to do for you to then kind of just get out of your mind or out of your writer's block, if you want to call it that, to think about your story and think about your character a different way. And I like it because it's not like, oh my goodness, you have homework and you have to have it finished by this time or this date or whatever. It is in the moment. It's like literally it's 40 minutes.
And there's no pressure whatsoever to share anything that you write. So you can literally write one word, you can write 20,000 words if you're capable of writing that fast, but it doesn't matter. So it's to get out of your head and the value judgments we put on our own writing of whether this sentence was good enough, whether this idea is good enough. No, I must delete that. There's no time for that. You just write it down, move on to the next. Keep going until you feel comfortable and you're ready to carry on with the bigger project.
Like you said, it's time to practice the things that we don't normally have time to practice. And like you go to all of these webinars and things saying, do this, do it this way, learn how to do that, learn how to do that. But when do you actually sit down and practice that? Not in the pressure of, I've got to write my manuscript, but I'm just working on being able to get this skill. So when I write my manuscript, the skill is there. That's what I like the most about this whole idea.
Yeah, I think because like when you learn an instrument, you start off practicing. You start with scales, you start with arpeggios, and then you have the big pieces that you learn. And it's the same with art. You start learning how to shade and you start learning how to use different types of media like crayons or paints, and then you move on to a bigger thing. Whereas sometimes when we start writing, we just jump right in. We just write anything and everything that comes out of our head, and then we either get upset when it's not perfect straight away and give up, or we kind of keep hammering at the same thing until it slowly gets into the right shape that we want it to be in. But if we take the time to have these little moments where we practice, then hopefully those moments will come a bit easier.
So what kind of made you decide that you wanted to create this group?
I wasn't practicing. I wanted a way to make myself practice, for one. And I was also seeing kind of the same issues coming up when I was doing beta reading. You're sort of saying the same things to different people. And you're sort of like, well, why don't we all practice that together? But also, as it's hard to have community as a writer because so much of what you have to do is on your own. Like even when you've had beta readers and you've met up with them, you still have to go back and really think, and you do the bulk of the work on your own. So having something once a month where you're meeting up with other people who are in the same boat as you, I just think is really nice because there's no pressure. Like if you're meeting up for beta reading, there's pressure that you're going to get feedback or that you're going to give feedback. But for this, you don't have to show anybody anything. You could write barely anything, or you could write something you don't think is any good, but you've written something and you're there. And if you want to talk to other writers at the end, you can. So I just think it's a nice community thing that I want to build.
Well, I love going back to this because when I was in my very first writer group in Maryland, we talk about where we're at, we talk about the problems that we're having, then we would do a writing prompt, and then we would do a feedback, and then the meeting would be over. And I loved doing it. I loved the prompts and I loved the things that just flowed from it and hearing the different styles of people through it. But what I didn't know was most writing groups do not do that. It was my first one. I thought that was normal. And then I left. I moved. And nobody else has done it since. So when you said you were doing that, I'm like, yes, like everybody needs this, whether you know you need it or not. And some of the best conferences that I went to, they would take the time to do a prompt like this. If you are looking for something like that, and I really, really think you should be, make sure get it on your calendar, get her website bookmarked, make sure that you're there. So what time on Wednesday is this happening?
So it's 5:30 p.m. UK time, which at the moment is GMT. It will obviously change to British summertime when that ever comes. So just look up London time, 3 p.m., and then convert it for whatever time zone you're in. If you can't make the group, still sign up for the emails, because after each one, I'll send out another little bonus prompt, and I'll also put up a bonus prompt on the Instagram page, which is at Rose's Little Writing Club.
That's fantastic. The one that you ran a week ago in January was your third prompt. So you're already going into this, and people can jump in on some of the old prompts like right now, right?
Yeah. Yep, there'll be a couple of prompts already up.
So for anyone listening right now who is either a new writer or wants to start writing and for the life of themselves don't even know what a writing prompt is, what is a writing prompt, Sarah?
Writing prompts are thought-provoking sentences or situations that you build off of. They can be done in multiple ways, and some of them will have a purpose, like here's a prompt that we're going to practice this skill at, and some of them are just, here is an opening prompt, see where it takes you. So it kind of depends on what prompt you're looking at. Rose is doing more of the, here's a skill we're going to learn about and now practice, correct?
Yeah. For each focus, it'll be slightly different because it depends on the focus as to which prompt's going to suit it better. But in general, we'll start with 3 2-minute studies, and they will be prompts that are focused on like practicing a specific skill. And then the longer 15-minute one at the end will still be practicing the skill, but it will have like a longer prompt to set you on your way. And then if you kind of get carried away and it becomes a scene, then yay.
We are going to do some actual writing prompts right now. So if you are in a position to be able to go and grab a notebook and do the writing prompts with us, go and grab a notebook. If not, we are going to cut the time out for actually writing the prompt. So don't worry, you're not going to be sitting here for 2 minutes to dead air while you're driving or whatever. The podcast will keep going, and then you can go back when you get home and do them with us if you'd like. But if you are doing the writing prompt with us, just go ahead and hit that pause button when Rose says go. Maybe set your own timer. When you're done, come back and listen to the rest with us.
I'm quite intrigued how it's going to go, because the first one we did went down really well with character, and I feel was maybe an easier sell. This one, because it's genre, people are like, I don't write that genre.
Okay, so Rose is basically going to give an example of how a session will work. So let's do this.
For our first study, firstly, make sure you've got something to write on and that you can see the screen and the picture at the same time. So for the first study, we're going to look at horror. So this may not be your genre, but keep that out of your mind. I'll give you some tips. Horror can be psychological or physical. It can be cinematic. We want to lean into eerie, fear, feelings, tension, dread, anything a little bit darker. So take a look at this picture of a red apple in the snow. Note down all the ways you might be able to perceive this apple using that horror lens. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. Go. Okay, that's time.
Why does it always go by so fast?
That's the whole plan.
So I know that generally in these sessions, like, you don't necessarily have to share your thoughts or what you wrote down for the purpose of just kind of showing or explaining to listeners how this might work. Like, I, for example, saw the apple. Don't know why, but immediately I thought of vampires, and I thought of blood, and I thought of a cloak, and I thought like running through the woods, and it was like darkness, and then like being chased, and kind of that was my trail of thought that I had with that. And then I started thinking, okay, like, what is this person running from? Who are they running from? What is the story? Is it a guy or is it a girl? So that's kind of how my mindset was thinking, or the way that I thought about this.
It's very interesting to me that you went fantasy and I went urban. What I zoned in on was the very front of the apple there looks like it could be a bruise, but the little specks of snow are hiding the bruise, kind of like it's trying to keep it hidden. And even though there's sun, you're in this cold. So it's like the cold is trying to fight off the sun. So then I was thinking, what sort of things could that, represent? What if it's a woman who is trying to get out of an abusive relationship and this apple is just embodying everything that she feels from that relationship.
Sorry, what? Taking the psychological level to like 11 or 10, like, whoa.
This is perfect because you would never have thought of writing anything like that potentially without the prompt. And now like you might not have gone fantasy without the prompt. Okay, let's move on to the next one whilst we're in the zone. Okay. So the next 2 minutes will be filtered through the rom-com genre. So for rom-com, we're looking for feel good, potentially witty, relationship focus, and personal development. So we're going to use the same image, and I'm going to put a timer on for 2 minutes. You can start now. Okay, that's time. How did you find that?
Okay, Sarah, you go first. Since I do write romance, I would love to see where your thoughts went first.
Okay, so my thoughts went completely to the opposite side of the spectrum, obviously. Why would the apple be in the snow? What if they were throwing the apple? Because being from a snow place, this is very light, fluffy snow. So then I wrote down those words, light, fluffy, things like that. And so I wrote, he wanted to throw snowballs, but like his gentle touch, the fluffy snow refused to pack. And then thinking about, they're laughing because they found an apple to throw back and forth instead, and just kind of being silly in the snow.
Love that. Love that. Rose?
We forgot to do yours last one.
No, it's fine. I kind of thought maybe she dropped an apple from her shopping and a hot neighbor picks it up for her. But she only got the apple because her mum says she needs to lose weight and she kind of likes that it fell. But then when the guy picks it up, she's like, thanks. And he helps her take the shopping inside. But now she's like sort of flustered and kind of hates the apple because she's not in a state for a meet cute. But then his nose is all rosied from the snow and he doesn't seem to mind. And then the timer went off. So that's all I got.
Time froze. Oh my gosh, wow. I like that. Very nice.
And you know.
Oh, yes. So, honestly, I had so many different scenarios coming out of this. Actually, as a romance author, you want to do your meet cute as soon as possible. So I had so many scenarios like written down here. One naturally was like a holiday romance. I was like, because it's snow. I was definitely, you think your typical Hallmark movie where it's like the lawyer goes to a small town and then she wants to shut down this business and then it's like a farmer and he has this apple tree farm and like that type of dynamic, because I saw the red apple and I was like red lips, like usually like women with red lips, like suits. The other thought I had was Love Myself and Enemies to Lovers. I had this scene where like these two characters are enemies to lovers and they don't like each other at all because she is like this farmer's daughter and you have this guy and he's like the city guy and he doesn't like belong there. She was busy picking apples and then she's just so annoyed with him, so she picks up the apple and then she throws it at him and it hits his head. Like that's kind of the vibes I was going with.
I like it. Let's move on before we get too distracted by a genre. The next one will be sci-fi. So with sci-fi, we're thinking speculative elements, exploring real-world issues, scientific advancements, ecological changes, and if you already write sci-fi, you may have a little head start. But if you don't write it, maybe you just start with a list of words, and then if you can think of a scene, go ahead. 2 minutes starting now. Okay, time is up. Pens down, people.
I had to finish my sentence, okay?
I feel like I'm like an exam right now.
Yes, it goes faster in the actual session just because like there's no talking in between it and we just sort of keep moving on. So it's like keep the brain working, but now we're like, I want to talk about it and carry on that story.
Okay, Rose, let's do you first.
I went through just a bit of a roller coaster. I maybe made lists more in this one. So I was like, maybe this is a genetically modified apple. Is this snow on a different planet? Is this the first apple in space? Maybe they sent it to a snowy planet to test the atmosphere somehow. Maybe apples are all extinct now and this is the last apple on Earth. Maybe there was a really old tree giving hope to the world and each year it fruits less and less. This was the only apple on it and it's just dropped. Or maybe there's a competition to find the last apple on Earth in Alaska and it's like a Running Man style competition. And then the timer went off. So what about you guys?
So I actually just started off with like a list of words and then it kind of formed a story. It's quite fascinating actually how your brain can so quickly form something in like 2 minutes. So I started off with hunger, starving, scarf, rummaging. And then it started like forming ideas. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know nothing about sci-fi. So I was like kind of on the edge here. I was like, is this correct or not? But I was like, the apple could have like magical element in the sense like Snow White type of vibes. And so then one bite would basically give eternal, how can you say, like no starvation in the world anymore. So you have this one guy, and he is the protector of this apple because there's only one left. And he has to find one person because there's only one person who can eat the apple, who is the chosen person to end world hunger. And so he goes on this journey, and then naturally like people are attacking him and like trying to end him and all those things. And then if the people get the apple and they eat it but they're not the right person, naturally they would die. But an apple only has so many bites. It's one of those things. And then it ends up being he's the guy that actually needs to eat the apple.
You need to write it.
Yeah, that one's very into the exploring real world issues arena. I love it.
That was the safest bet because I was like, I know at least what real world issues is, not so much the speculative elements.
Well, with sci-fi, it tends like it can tend to be sort of the world as you know it, but with like one change. So you've nailed it perfectly.
Yes.
So immediately I thought about an alien landing on the planet and from a world that doesn't have snow and being like enthralled with this snow and how it was light and fluffy and crystallized, not hard and like sharp like their frozen ice and their condensers. And his spaceship, like he had to go far enough from the spaceship that it hadn't melted all the snow around it anymore, so they could kind of feel it and everything, and then wondering why the apple wasn't also frozen solid if the snow was frozen. Like, why is the apple not frozen? This alien trying to figure out what it was like. And then I was going to have a horse show up and eat the apple and freak him out.
Amazing. I love it.
I don't know where the story was going, but that's what it was.
I love how everybody's got such like different trains of thoughts with it.
Right? No, I like this. Okay. Hit me with it, Rose.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our long study now that we're in the grooves. This is our last study and it's a longer one, 15 minutes. So for this one, the genre is thriller, or if you want to, you can use your work in progress's genre, but the prompt is slightly thriller infused. So, a serial killer has been marking their victims with apples. Your character lives in a share house. On their way home, they spot this apple on their doorstep. So, you might want to start noting possible theories, character traits, actions, consequences. Try and keep the genre in mind, and if it turns into a scene, go for it. So, with thriller, we're looking for tension, danger, twists, high stakes, and misdirection.
I do have a question. For people who really aren't English, what is a share house?
It's when you share a house with other people. It's like you living with other people that aren't your family.
Gotcha.
A
Okay,
community house, like maybe a hostel or a
cool. Yes. Okay.
apartment complex sort of situation.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I've left it open a little bit because you might want to say it's a dorm, it might be like a sorority house, or it might be like a retirement home. It could be any kind. Right, I'm gonna set the timer. Let's go. Okay, that's 15 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Okay, you did it. How does it feel?
I came up with 2 ideas, both of which I'm going to actually use in 2 different whips. So it's going to be fun.
I have to admit, I started with a list and I was like, serial killer, apple, trademark, victim, detective. No, I don't want to do detective. So maybe I should do like his wife. And then she finds an apple on her doorstep. And I was like, no, that's too cliche. I'm just going to wait for the 15 minutes to pass by. I don't have any ideas. I'm like, this is going nowhere. I stared at the page and I was like, okay, focus. Think of this again. What would kind of be like a thriller for me type of vibes? Knives Out is like a mystery thriller of some sorts. And then you kind of mentioned like a retirement house, and I was like, okay, I could use that. So then I started like using the idea of Knives Out versus retirement home versus a board game. So you have this retirement house, and you have, let's say, 6 different characters, 6 different rooms, and 6 different objects. The apple being one of the objects that kills you, or it tells you the next victim or whatever. You have, let's say, 2 characters being in the dining room, both with an object in their hand. And then there's dialogue happening, and then either you as the reader finds out that it was a candlelight, but the candlelight needs to be used to go light the dining room or something like that. Then that kind of disappears out of the story. So then you know, like, the candlelight is not the murder weapon. Or maybe the nurse comes in and Dr. Peters has to go take his medicine, which means instead of like that person not being the killer, he's the victim. And so then he's removed from the storyline. And here's where the twist is. So it ends with basically this guy having played this board game in his head all along. So you then reflect back to him actually just playing a board game, but then there's like an apple next to him. So then you're left wondering, okay, like, is he the serial killer? And is this all real? Or is he the next victim?
Ooh. Does playing the game make you a victim, or is he playing the game with other victims?
Mm-hmm. Or is it all just in his head?
You've both got such like vivid ideas out of it, and potential ideas for work in progress.
The first idea that I had, what thrilled me about it the most, is I have a first draft going into second draft form story that I needed to add some more thrillers, some more horror, some more tension into it and fill some of the gaps. And so this gave me a fantastic idea and the twist, but the reader already knows it. The twist is the character lives a double life where she's just a normal citizen on one side, but she's also a political assassin on the other side. It's going to work into that where she's getting a hit that she doesn't want to do.
Nice.
Euros?
I snagged on the retirement home too, just because I love retirement home things. And I was just like thinking it was this old lady and she sits down to watch the news in the morning, but then she has to mute it because her daughter calls and she never calls, and she hears that her daughter's had a baby, so she's really excited. She's going to plan to go and see the baby in another state, and she has to get snacks and tickets and a present. She turns up the TV just as the news story ends, and it's like, if you see one, please alert the authorities. And then she just carries on with the day, and she's downstairs. There's a picture of an apple on TV, and she's like, ugh, news these days, so pointless and fluffy, stupid. The person at the desk kind of is a bit jumpy, and she's like, ugh, young people. And she goes to the shop and people look at her a bit strange when she buys apples, and they're sort of keeping away from her, and she's like, oh, people these days so obsessed with sweets that they're scared of fruit now. And she just kind of keeps seeing all these things but like not getting it, but the reader would know more than she does, sort of thing. And then she goes back home and there's an apple on the step and she almost slips on it, so she takes it inside and like asks the receptionist if they dropped the apple, and they blanch, and then she's like, what's wrong, you allergic? And it just sort of snowballs a bit. Why is everybody like going so weird about this? Like, you think we need dementia tests? I just said I found it on the step. So I think I probably went like a little bit more cozy mystery thriller. Someone in the other room is going to drop down dead and scream, and there's going to have been a murder.
Kind of dropping the hints. I love it.
Yeah. That is the final exercise. So if that has spurred you on to keep writing, then please just pause the episode and go on and write to your heart's content and come back once you're finished. Otherwise, you can get in touch on Instagram at Rose's Little Writing Club or by email roseslittlewritingclub@gmail.com and let me know how you got on.
Thank you for coming, Rose. Thank you for sharing this writing prompt with us. I know that I took a lot of things from it that I'm going to turn around and put right into my stories like today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm really glad that it's prompted something. No pun intended.
And if you follow us on social media, but you definitely should be following her, then we will also be sharing like when the next meetup will be and how you will be able to get in touch or sign up so that you don't miss this fun and welcoming community that you can be a part of.
We like to keep things short here on Tea and Tales. Get your fingers back on the keyboard and your pens back on paper.
And if you like what we are doing here, you love the topics that we are discussing, and if you enjoy the community that we are creating with people like Rose, then go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Tea and Tales Podcast, and on Twitter/X and TikTok at Podcast Details. And go to that purple icon on your device and give us 5 stars so that we can go up, up, up. It's a moment.
Happy writing.
Bye.